Hi, I'm Amanda Swanepoel. Today we are going to talk about the joy of planning and reaching long-term goals. Brian Tracy tells us every minute you spend in planning saves 10 minutes in execution. This gives you 1,000% return on energy. Recently, I was asked to do a training for young teens in the Dedorens area. The Bright Star facilitator, Elmyn Janse van Rensburg, she works for the International Leadership Academy, requested that we can train 4 of her young leaders to be mentors and facilitate the Bright Star program to younger teens in their community. From the start, I was so impressed with these young people. They were so prepared for the training. Their ages range from 17 to 21, and they've been exposed to leadership material for a while now. From grade 8, they are being mentored in leadership development. Every time we started the session, they were on the minute on time. Every discussion we had, they were so involved, and I enjoyed their contributions so much. They would say to me, "Tanya Amanda, as Craig Rochelle always says," or "Tanya Amanda, as John Maxwell once said." I just enjoyed their knowledge and how they used it every day. Nothing in the training were adapted for them. I wanted to adapt it, and then Elmyn would say, "No, Amanda, we do not adapt anything. They can handle it." And although the training is on a level far higher than their own level of understanding, I thought it was amazing to see that they even completed their CETA accreditation portfolio of evidence in English, although they are all Afrikaans speaking youngsters. While I was spending time with them, I started dreaming with them. I was dreaming if these 4 youngsters who really lived what they were taught can maybe start making a difference in their community. Their hope started having an influence on me. I started becoming excited, thinking what a difference they can make in the future of our country. I started dreaming about where can they be in 20 years' time, in 30 years' time. Maybe they can bring the difference that we need. And I started realizing, because their leaders had a vision, and these young people bought into the vision despite their challenging circumstances. Because they bought into the vision, it inspired me, and now I can also inspire you. Without long-term dreams becoming long-term plans, nothing will happen. Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Warren Buffett. There's 5 people who really had an influence on my excitement about planning long term. The first was John Maxwell. He, in his book Today Matters, he talks about the fact that he realized later in his life that the decisions that he made and the things that he was thinking about in his 20s, he started seeing the result thereof in his 40s. The decisions and things that he was thinking on in his 30s were visible in his 50s. He's now in his 70s, and he's definitely seeing the results of planning and visions that were birthed in his 50s. What are you thinking about now that can have an effect in 20 years' time? Everything we do, we must realize it's not just about tomorrow and the day thereafter. It's a long-term effect. If you plant a tree today, you won't see the tree. Maybe within the next few years growing. But in 20 years' time, it will be a big tree. And it was worth the while that you made the effort 20 years ago. The same concept works with eating habits. What you eat today, only in 20 years' time, you will see what the effect was on your own health. What are you thinking about today? What are you planning today? For you as individual or for you as a team? Let's stop this recording now and have a discussion. Maybe someone sitting with you watching this, and just share with them, what did you do and think the last week that will definitely show visible results in 20 years' time? The next role model that we can look at is Tony Robbins, a well-known author, speaker, coach. Tony Robbins taught me something. He says when you look at any goal, you need to have clarity on what you want. But the thing that we do is we focus on activity, a to-do list that we can tick off daily. To really reach our long-term goals, we need to have clarity on the outcomes that we need. What is the outcome you want for your life? What is the outcome you want for your team? Not the activities that need to be done every day, the outcome where we're going. What is the outcome for this next week? What is the outcome for the next phone call that you need to make? Another thing that Tony Robbins says is that we underestimate the effect of what we can do in a year and underestimate what can happen in a decade. He shares how he planned his life in decades. First 10 years, then in his 30s, then in his 40s, then in his 50s. I learned so much from that to realize that we need to think about where do we want to be the outcome of the next 10 years in our lives. Maybe you can now pause this recording and just talk about the outcome that you actually are working towards individually or with your team. Where do you want to be at the end of the next decade? Now we have a word of warning from the late Dr. Miles Monroe. He said that we must be mindful of clinging to our experience while we are planning for the future. Because a lot of times our new ideas are born from experience, but then we tend to do the same thing again and again. Saul had a lot of experience and he wanted David to wear his armor when fighting the giant. David could not handle the weight of Saul's experience. The giant also had previous experience with fighting with swords. He was actually slain because he was not expecting a different method of fighting. We actually need to embrace the fact that we are doing things in a new way, and that's okay. We can use our experience, but don't get stuck with what you experienced in the past. Have a discussion now with your team, or think about it if you're alone. What kind of things are you doing, planning towards the future, but then still waiting and going back to the past all the time? The fourth role model that we can learn from on long-term planning is Rory Vaden. In his book, Take the Stairs, he uses an example that we can use the acronym VAST. What he actually proposes is that we will take a picture. We need to visualize the moment that you reach your dream. So create that specific scene when you will actually achieve that moment of reaching the dream. How do you do that? You start with this acronym. On the V is for visualize. The A is for auditory, the S is for smell, and the T is for touch. What he says is that you visualize the picture of what you want to reach and when you are reaching it. So he was at 22 years old. He dreamed about winning the World Championship of Public Speaking. This is a very big event, and he realized for his future it will help a lot if he can win that competition. It's a competition where 25,000 contestants are involved from 90 different countries. So he says people spend their whole lives working towards reaching that dream. So he started visualizing how it will feel if he wins that championship. He saw himself on the stage with the trophy in his hand. He saw the conference venue in his mind where they were together at that moment. He saw the bright lights on the stage, and he saw the cameras, the floating cameras around him, and he saw the people sitting around him. The A is for auditory. And he said he started to connect with his dream. What would he hear? He heard the people clapping when he heard them calling out his name, Rory Vaden, the winner of this championship. The next is S for smell. What happens with smell? Any sort of scent will have an effect. Maybe you would smell a beach that you're on, or a restaurant that you're in, or a house that you have specific connections with something that you smell. Smell is the keenest of all human senses, and therefore it's powerful if you can activate it while dreaming to reach your long-term goal. Rory said he smelled the conference room that they would be in. And he even smelled a little bit of the sweat pouring down from the anxiety of him being part of this competition. And then the last in vast, the V is for vision, what do you see? The A is for auditive, what do you hear? The S is for smell, what do you smell? And the T is for touch. So kinesthetically, what can you touch? What are you feeling? He said he felt the trophy, the heaviness of the trophy in his hands when he was dreaming about the moment. He felt the stage under his feet. You can also connect that with emotion. What are you really feeling? So he felt the excitement of the moment. The good news is that he reached his goal. He was the winner of that trophy. The more clearly you can visualize, hear, smell, and feel, and touch the dream that you are working towards. If it's an individual dream, or if it's a dream that you and your team are working towards, VAST will definitely help you. Maybe you can stop this recording now and have a discussion. How would the using of this VAST acronym have an effect on you and your team reaching your 10-year goal that you clarified for yourself? Mark Cole, the CEO of Maxwell Enterprise, summarized a very interesting few steps. He says as we are growing in life and we grow in using our influence, we actually go through 4 different phases. The first one is outside in. That means you are growing by learning a lot, getting information from the outside in. Then you go into a new phase of inside out. Inside out means your influence start being visible to people out there. They start seeing you and they start hearing what you are saying. The next one is side by side. That's when we start realizing that the size of your team will determine the size of your dream. The last one is upside down. That is where you start using your success into significance and where your influence extends into your community. And people are definitely influenced by your leadership. From outside in, inside out, side by side, and upside down. Just a few tips regarding these. When we start growing from the outside in, that we are getting a lot of information, a big challenge is that sometimes if we're appointed in a specific position and it takes a lot of headspace and energy from us just to try to survive, a lot of times we stop growing. We stop attending programs, seminars, webinars, whatever, to grow. We stop reading books because we don't have time. This is the one thing that we really need to remember. Keep on growing to reach your long-term goals. The second one, a tip that we can use from going into the phase of inside out, we really cannot hide our passion and love for other people in leadership. So when you go into the phase towards your long-term planning of the inside being visible outside, remember to love the people that you are influencing and leading. The third phase on side by side is so amazing because dreams come true in teams. Stop trying to do everything yourself. And that connects to the last one, the upside down, when we really start having influence in the community and you start developing other leaders so that they can also reach the dreams, the visions that was casted. To remember that you can build a team so strong that people, when looking from the outside, won't even know who the real leader in the group is. If we look at what we've learned from all 5 these role models, it will definitely, I hope, it will inspire you too, because I am so inspired to start using this in my long-term planning towards goals. The first person that we learned from was John Maxwell, saying don't just think of today, and especially in a time like we're experiencing now, like in the pandemic that we are experiencing, I'm just trying to survive. But this is the right time to also dream big, cast the vision big, and then work towards something that what you are thinking and planning today will be visible in 20 or 30 years, as John Maxwell told us. Then looking at Tony Robbins, saying it must be a clear goal. And the clarity comes when you're not just focusing on activities, but on outcomes. And then it will be easier if you break it down in decades. What do you want in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, in 30 years' time? Please, even if you're working in a position with a team, don't just survive for today and this week and this month. Think bigger, that you can focus on outcomes and not just on activities. We heard the warning from Dr. Miles Monroe that said, please, 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 be careful not to get stuck with your experience. To dream big, you need to change the direction in which you are looking. The fourth one was on Rory Vaden that said, keep in mind the VAST method, the acronym that will help you to visualize, to hear how it will sound if you reach your dream, to smell what's in that room, and to at the end to really touch something visibly that you can say, this is where I'm heading. With Bright Star, we started working on our long-term goal, and we started seeing, visualizing, hearing, tasting. It would be a discussion for another day, but it inspired me so much to use this vast acronym. And then to add to that our why, and that is our why for whatever we do in Bright Star, is to say that we say yes to joy. I hope you experience that while we're busy here. The last one, Mark Cole, saying using your influence to the long term, from the outside in, the inside out, side by side, and then from upside down. In Hebrew 12 verse 1 and 2 we read, "Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus." That's our goal, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. He's got a vision for you and me. Let's buy into that vision. Dennis Waitley says, the easiest thing is to make sure you feel happy and satisfied in this moment. Setting long-term goals is much more effort-taking, but at the same time, much more fulfilling.